Chapter 1. The Forgotten Child. In the sprawling, neon-lit metropolis of Zalara, 7, where the rain never ceased and the air was thick with the mingled scent of ionized metal and ancient ozone, the Forgotten were easy to overlook. The city stretched endlessly in every direction, a dense labyrinth of towering skyscrapers whose jagged silhouettes pierced the smog-choked sky, their walls alive with shifting holographic advertisements and frantic flickers of light that painted the damp streets in electric hues. Hover cars buzzed overhead, leaving transient streaks of red and blue against the perpetual twilight, while the lower levels, a tangled maze of narrow alleys, rusted pipes, and forgotten corners were ruled by shadows and silence. It was in these forsaken depths of Zalara, 7, that she existed, the child no one noticed, the dirty alien child who had become a ghost haunting the margins of a civilization too busy to care. Her skin was smeared with grime and the persistent stains of acid rain, her tangled hair a matted nest that caught debris and dust, and her once lustrous eyes now clouded with exhaustion and wary suspicion. She spoke no known language, but her soft, plaintive cries and timid gestures were a desperate plea to a world that had turned its back on her. She was an orphan, abandoned in the wake of a devastating war that had shattered her homeworld and scattered her people like ashes on the cosmic winds. Her species, the Crithians, were once proud and vibrant luminescent beings with scales that shimmered like polished gemstones, known across the quadrant for their wisdom and fierce independence. But the merciless conflict, fueled by greed and fear, had decimated their civilization, leaving only fragments scattered across distant worlds like Zalara, 7, where survival was a brutal contest of shadows and silence. For months, the child had drifted through the alleyways, her small frame weaving between towering heaps of discarded machinery and piles of electronic scrap, scavenging what little sustenance she could find. Her hunger was gnawing and constant, a persistent ache that clouded her fragile mind and sapped the strength from her limbs. She survived on scraps tossed aside by merciless scavengers, on the cold trickle of nutrient gels discarded by hurried workers, and on the fleeting kindness of street animals who, like her, knew the bitter sting of neglect. The city's inhabitants were indifferent, if not outright hostile. Many viewed her as a nuisance, a dirty alien vermin unworthy of their attention or aid. The Crithian child's radiant heritage was obscured beneath layers of dirt and desperation, rendering her invisible to the eyes of those who might have helped. The government's welfare programs barely reached this forgotten underworld. Patrol drones passed her by, their sensors failing to detect a lone child amid the sea of discarded debris and mechanical refuse. The powerful corporations that ruled Zalara, 7, cared only for profits and power, and the beggars, orphans, and refugees were nothing but shadows on their bottom lines. Yet, despite the overwhelming loneliness and hardship, a fierce spark of will burned within the child. Her luminous eyes, though dulled by sorrow, held traces of a fire that refused to be extinguished. She remembered faint whispers of home, the crystalline towers of Crithian cities, the songs sung beneath twin moons, the gentle touch of a mother's hand. Those memories were fragile, flickering like distant stars in a night sky obscured by the dense smog of Zalara, 7, but they sustained her in moments when the hunger and cold threatened to consume her entirely. One evening, as the acid rain fell harder than usual, sizzling on metal and flesh alike, the child huddled beneath a rusted overhang in one of the city's forgotten districts. The neon signs overhead buzzed and flickered erratically, casting ghostly glows over the puddles that mirrored the fractured cityscape. She was too weak to move far and had no hope that the night would bring anything more than another cold, empty dawn. Her stomach tightened painfully as she reached out with trembling hands toward a discarded nutrient packet lying half-buried in the sludge. Just as she grasped it, a shadow loomed overhead, and a voice, soft but firm, broke the silence. "Hey, you can't eat that." Startled, the child recoiled instinctively, retreating into the darkness, eyes wide with fear and suspicion. The voice belonged to a human, a rarity in the district, and an unexpected figure amid the grime and despair. He was tall, clad in worn but sturdy clothes, with eyes that reflected something she had not seen in a long time: concern. The man knelt slowly, careful not to frighten her further, and extended a hand holding a small container filled with warm, nutritious paste. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The child's instincts warred with the sudden intrusion of kindness. Trust was a luxury long denied to her. The city had taught her to expect cruelty and neglect. But something about the human's steady gaze, the gentle tone of his voice, stirred a fragile hope deep within. She reached out tentatively, fingers brushing his hand as she accepted the offering. The warmth of the food was a balm against the cold hunger gnawing at her. And as she ate, the man whose name she would soon learn was Jonah sat quietly beside her, offering silent companionship in a world that had forgotten her. That night marked the beginning of a transformation neither of them could have foreseen. Jonah, a scavenger with a heart too big for the harsh city, had stopped for a moment to feed a dirty alien child, and in doing so, he set in motion a chain of events that would change her life forever, and perhaps even the fate of Zalara, 7 itself. Night after night, Jonah returned to the shadowed alleys of Zalara, 7, carrying small parcels of food and clean water for the child who had become his silent companion. In a world where compassion was a rare currency and survival demanded ruthless pragmatism, his simple acts of kindness seemed almost revolutionary. The child, whom Jonah learned to call Mira, began to shed the layers of grime and fear that clung to her like armor. She tentatively reached out to Jonah, her luminous eyes reflecting flickers of trust and curiosity that had been absent for so long. Slowly, she began to mimic his gestures, learning the rhythms of human speech and touch, bridging the yawning gap between their worlds. Yet the city remained unforgiving. Dangers lurked in every corner, from ruthless gangs that preyed on the weak to corrupt officials who turned a blind eye to suffering. Jonah and Myra's growing bond became their shield against the darkness. He taught her how to navigate the urban labyrinth, to avoid the predators both human and mechanical, and to find pockets of safety where hope still flickered. In return, Mira shared glimpses of her mysterious heritage, glowing marks on her skin that pulsed softly in the night, faint echoes of a language long lost, and fragments of memories that shimmered like distant stars in her mind. Together, they forged a fragile family amid the ruins of a world that had forgotten them. Chapter 2: The Light in the Darkness. Myra's transformation did not go unnoticed. Word spread quietly through the underground circuits of Zalara, 7 about the dirty alien child who was now walking with purpose, her eyes bright and her spirit unbroken. Some offered help, others suspicion, but Jonah remained her unwavering protector. As Mira grew stronger, the questions about her origin and destiny deepened. She was more than a survivor. There was an ancient power simmering within her, a legacy tied to the very fabric of the cosmos. One evening, under the flickering glow of a dying neon sign, a mysterious figure approached them, a scholar from the distant star system of Valerian, who spoke of Myra's people and the crucial role she was destined to play in the galactic balance. The scholar told tales of the Crithians, a noble alien race thought extinct, whose return could alter the course of interstellar politics and peace. Jonah realized that feeding Mira was only the beginning. Now he had to help her reclaim her heritage and face the challenges that awaited beyond the city's rain-soaked streets. Together, they prepared to leave the only home Mira had ever known, venturing into the vast unknown where danger and hope intertwined, and where one human's compassion had sparked the first light in a long, dark night. The days that followed the arrival of the Valerian scholar were filled with a whirlwind of revelations and preparations. Mira, once a frightened and filthy child hiding in the shadows, was now thrust into a world far beyond the dingy alleys and neon haze of Zalara, 7. The scholar, a tall and dignified being named Kalen, spoke of the Crithians' rich history, a proud people of shimmering scales and radiant energy, whose near extinction had left a void in the galactic balance. He explained that Mira was one of the last surviving descendants, and that her awakening was not merely a chance of fate, but a cosmic necessity. The Crithians had been keepers of ancient knowledge, their legacy entwined with powerful forces that could either heal or devastate entire star systems. Jonah listened intently as Kalen detailed the dangers that lurked beyond their small sanctuary. There were factions eager to capture or destroy Mira, seeing her either as a threat or a tool to be exploited. The scholar warned that the journey ahead would test their resolve, demanding courage, trust, and sacrifice. Despite the gravity of the task, Jonah felt an unshakable determination. He had fed a child in the gutter, yes, but now he would stand as her guardian, protector, and friend against whatever shadows threatened to consume her light. Mira herself was a mixture of fear and wonder. The knowledge of her heritage awakened a storm within her, a potent mix of power and responsibility she barely understood. But with Jonah's steady presence and Kalen's guidance, she began to harness the faint pulses of energy that shimmered beneath her skin, learning to channel them into strength rather than fear. Their bond deepened, not just as protector and ward, but as a makeshift family forged in the crucible of survival. When the time came to leave Zalara, 7, the city's ceaseless reign seemed to pause for a moment, as if acknowledging the turning of a great page. Together, Jonah, Mira, and Kalen boarded a weathered starship, its hull scarred by countless voyages but steadfast in purpose. As the engines roared to life and the ship lifted into the stormy sky, Mira gazed back at the sprawling metropolis that had been her prison and her school, feeling a bittersweet ache for a world she was ready to leave behind. Ahead lay the stars, vast and mysterious, and with them, a destiny shaped by the kindness of one human who had dared to stop, to feed, and to believe that even the most forgotten child could change the fate of worlds. As the starship drifted away from the rain-drenched spires of Zalara, 7, a fragile hope blossomed in Myra's heart, a hope born of Jonah's quiet kindness and Kalen's ancient wisdom. The hum of the engines was a lullaby to her weary soul, yet beneath that soothing sound lay the weight of a destiny both immense and daunting. Myra's transformation was far from complete. The vestiges of her forgotten past whispered within her, urging her toward a future where she would reclaim her people's lost legacy. Jonah, watching her with a protective gaze, felt the gravity of his newfound role as guardian not just of a child, but of a symbol, a beacon for a race thought lost to the stars. The Valerian scholar immersed Mira in the lore of the Crithians, teaching her to channel the latent energy that shimmered beneath her mottled skin into purposeful strength. She practiced tirelessly, her small hands weaving intricate patterns in the air as pulses of light flickered into existence, trembling with raw power, yet fueled by ancient memory. The bond between human and alien grew deeper, as Jonah learned not only to protect Myra's fragile body, but to nurture the spirit blossoming within her. Yet the galaxy beyond was rife with peril. Their journey would take them through war-torn sectors and lawless outposts, where mercenaries and bounty hunters preyed on the vulnerable. Kalen warned of those who sought to capture Mira, to harness her power for their own dark ambitions, and the trio steeled themselves against the coming storm. Days turned into weeks as they navigated the star lanes, forging alliances and evading dangers with a mixture of luck, cunning, and unyielding determination. Along the way, Myra's confidence grew, her laughter returning like a fragile spring after a long winter, her eyes gleaming with a newfound light that no amount of dirt or despair could dim. Through it all, Jonah remained her steadfast anchor, a reminder that even in the coldest corners of the universe, compassion could ignite the fiercest fires of hope. Chapter 3: Awakening the Forgotten. Their voyage led them to the remote moon of Vexera, a place shrouded in myth and ancient power, where the remnants of the Crithian civilization had left their deepest secrets buried beneath layers of crystalline ice. It was here, among the ruins of their ancestors, that Myra's true awakening began. Guided by Kalen, she stepped into the vast halls carved from living crystal, where echoes of a long-lost era hummed with latent energy. As she moved through the sacred chambers, the power within her surged, responding to the ancient glyphs etched in glowing runes. The connection to her heritage was no longer a distant memory but a tangible force, a wellspring of strength and knowledge that transformed her from a frightened child into a rising beacon of her people's destiny. But awakening also brought new challenges. Factions across the galaxy, sensing the return of Crithian power, moved to intercept them. The shadow of war loomed as Mira and her companions prepared to defend not just her life, but the fragile hope for renewal she represented. With Jonah by her side and Kalen's wisdom to guide them, Mira embraced the path laid before her, a path that would test the limits of her courage, the depth of her humanity, and the unbreakable bond forged by kindness and survival. The crystalline halls of Vexara's ancient Crithian ruins stretched out before Mira like a vast cathedral to a forgotten time. Light filtered through translucent ceilings carved eons ago, casting prismatic hues across walls etched with symbols that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly energy. As Mira stepped carefully across the smooth, glowing floors, the weight of her ancestors seemed to settle upon her small shoulders, filling her with both reverence and a stirring power she could no longer deny. Kalen's voice was steady beside her, recounting the legends of the Crithians, how they once wielded their innate energy not as weapons of war, but as healers, protectors, and scholars of the cosmos. Mira felt that legacy ignite within her, a spark that danced beneath her skin and hummed in rhythm with the very stones around her. Days passed as she trained in the sacred chambers, learning to control the shimmering energy that radiated from her fingertips, weaving it into shields of light and gentle pulses that could soothe or strengthen. Jonah watched in awe as the once dirty, frightened child blossomed into a young warrior of light, her eyes alight with determination and a fierce new purpose. Yet even as Mira embraced her awakening, the dangers pressing in from the galaxy's darker corners grew more urgent. Word of the Crithian resurgence spread quickly, drawing attention from factions both noble and sinister. Mercenaries prowled the star lanes, bounty hunters lurked in shadowed spaceports, and shadowy agents from rival empires sought to capture or eliminate the girl whose power could tip the balance of interstellar politics. Jonah and Kalen fortified their defenses, crafting strategies to protect Mira at every turn. Each encounter was a crucible, testing their resolve, unity, and the strength of the fragile family they had become. Mira's psychic bond with Jonah deepened, becoming a wellspring of comfort and courage amid the chaos. She learned not only to harness her alien power, but to trust in the human heart that had saved her from despair. In the quiet moments between battles, beneath alien moons and drifting starlight, Mira whispered promises of hope and renewal vows that one day, her people would reclaim their place among the stars, and that no child would ever be left hungry or alone again. The ruins of Vexara had awakened more than ancient power. They had awakened a destiny that would challenge empires, break chains of oppression, and shine as a beacon across the galaxy. Mira, the dirty alien child no one fed, was becoming a force no one could ignore. As Mira's mastery of the Crithian energy grew, so too did the complexity of her challenges. The ancient ruins of Vexara, while a sanctuary and source of power, became a beacon that attracted darker forces lurking beyond the veil of known space. Shadows shifted among the stars, and whispers of her awakening stirred fear in the hearts of those who thrived on division and control. One night, under a veil of swirling violet nebulae, the starship's sensors detected an approaching fleet, silent, swift, and menacing. These were not mere bounty hunters or mercenaries. This was a coalition of factions intent on extinguishing the Crithian legacy once and for all. The crew scrambled to prepare defenses, knowing that the battle ahead would test every ounce of strength and unity they had forged. Mira, standing at the heart of the command deck, felt the weight of her heritage and the expectations of a people long thought lost. But she also felt the unyielding presence of Jonah beside her, his steady gaze a source of unwavering support. With Kalen's guidance, they wove a plan that blended ancient Crithian energy with cutting-edge human technology, creating defenses that shimmered with radiant light and hums of power. As the enemy fleet descended, the battle erupted in a blaze of starfire and psychic might. Mira unleashed the energy coursing through her veins, weaving shields to protect their ship and sending pulses that disrupted the attacker's systems. Jonah coordinated the ship's weaponry with precision, his ingenuity turning scrap and salvage into formidable armaments. The fight was fierce and unforgiving, but together, they stood as a beacon of hope and resistance. When the final echoes of the conflict faded into the void, Mira knew their journey was far from over. Her awakening had sparked a cosmic reckoning, and the fate of her people and the galaxy rested on the strength of one human's compassion and one alien child's courage. Chapter 4. A New Dawn Across the Stars. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, as the stars glimmered with renewed hope, Mira, Jonah, and Kalen set course for a distant sanctuary, an ancient Crithian stronghold hidden within the lush forests of a forgotten planet. Here, they would rebuild, heal, and prepare for the new era they had begun to shape. Myra's transformation inspired those they encountered, refugees and exiles, skeptics and believers, all drawn to the promise of a future where compassion and strength walked hand in hand. With Jonah's unwavering dedication and Kalen's wisdom, Mira blossomed into a leader, a bridge between lost traditions and a galaxy hungry for change. Their story, born from the simple act of one human stopping to feed a dirty alien child, rippled across star systems, a testament to the power of kindness to ignite revolutions and rewrite destinies. Under twin suns that bathed the new world in warm light, Mira looked to the horizon not as a frightened orphan, but as a beacon of hope, ready to lead her people and all who believed in unity toward a brighter tomorrow. The ancient stronghold on the forested planet of Silthara stood as a testament to the Crithian legacy, vast spires of shimmering crystal rising from emerald canopies, alive with faint pulses of energy that echoed the heartbeat of a civilization reborn. As Mira, Jonah, and Kalen descended upon this sanctuary, they felt the weight of history settle around them, a mantle of responsibility and hope woven through the very air. Here, amid the whispered songs of the forest and the glowing runes etched into the stone, Myra's journey truly began. She was no longer the dirty, forgotten child who scavenged in dark alleys, but a leader awakening to her full potential. With Jonah's steady guidance and Kalen's ancient knowledge, she set about rebuilding her people, not just their homes and traditions, but their spirit. Refugees from distant worlds arrived, drawn by tales of the child who survived against all odds and the human who refused to abandon her. Together, they forged a new community, blending Crithian wisdom with the resilience born from hardship. Technology and tradition intertwined as they crafted defenses and healing centers, schools where young Crithians could learn their heritage and embrace the future. The bond between Mira and Jonah deepened, rooted in shared trials and unwavering trust. Their connection, a fusion of human compassion and alien strength, became a symbol that echoed far beyond Silthara's glowing forests. Across the galaxy, factions once hostile began to reconsider their stance, inspired by the hope that even the smallest acts of kindness could spark revolutions. Myra's story was told and retold, the tale of the dirty alien child no one fed, who found a protector in a human stranger and rose to lead her people into a new era. Under the twin suns, as dawn bathed the stronghold in warm light, Mira stood alongside Jonah, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. The future was uncertain, fraught with dangers, yet filled with possibility. But for the first time in a long time, hope burned bright. A new dawn not only for the Crithians, but for all who dared to believe in change. In the weeks that followed their arrival on Silthara, Mira and Jonah worked tirelessly alongside Kalen and the gathering Crithian survivors to breathe life back into their shattered heritage. The ancient crystals embedded throughout the stronghold hummed softly, responding to Myra's growing command of her energy and weaving a protective shield around their fledgling community. Every day, more refugees arrived, beings from distant systems who had heard of the child who survived the depths of neglect and the human who refused to turn away. They came seeking hope, shelter, and the promise of a future where kindness could triumph over cruelty. Mira stood at the heart of this revival, her once dim eyes now radiant with purpose and strength. She became a leader forged by hardship and compassion, her story a living testament to resilience. Under her guidance, the Crithians began to heal not just their bodies and homes, but the deep scars of loss and exile. Schools were rebuilt to teach the younger generation the ancient ways and the new paths forward. Healers combined Crithian energy manipulation with human medical technology to cure wounds that had long been thought permanent. Jonah remained ever at her side, no longer just a protector, but a partner in every sense. Their bond, born of a simple act of feeding a dirty alien child, had become unbreakable, a bridge between worlds and a beacon of unity. Together, They envisioned a galaxy where no child would be left hungry or forgotten. As the twin suns set behind Silthara's crystalline spires, Mira looked out over the thriving community they had nurtured. The once forgotten alien child had become a symbol of hope and renewal across the stars. The galaxy's vastness no longer felt cold and indifferent, but filled with the warmth of connection, courage, and love. Their journey, beginning with a human's choice to stop and feed a child, had reshaped destinies and kindled a new dawn. Mira's eyes, glowing softly in the twilight, reflected the promise of countless tomorrows where kindness could change the course of history. And so, under the endless canopy of stars, their story ended not with finality, but with the bright beginning of a future forged together.